Hello, Crestwood family. I miss you all and hope you're all safe and well. I look forward to where we can be together in person again. These are difficult times, and if you have a need, I hope you'll please reach out to myself or your assigned deacon. We desire to serve in the ministry the Lord has called us to. So again, if you have any problems, any needs, please let someone at the church know you're not by yourself, and we're here and glad to help. When a tragedy strikes, especially a natural disaster like COVID-19, we can't help but wonder, how did God let it happen? Did he lose control for a moment? Did he look the other way? Doesn't he care? Does he really have a plan when things like this can happen? There are hundreds of thousands infected and tens of thousands dead. How can a good God let this happen? Many people ask those questions during this time, but the truth is, God did allow it to happen. Consider Job 1, verse 1. There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job, and that man was blameless and upright and one who feared God and shunned evil. Matthew verse 12 tells us every tragedy, in the book of Job, in the first chapter, in the 12th verse, tells us that every tragedy that befell Job was permitted by God. Two of those tragedies were natural disasters. Natural disasters belong to God as much do the sun, moon, and stars. As a young man, I was a roofing contractor. Occasionally, I uncovered a roof and a sudden storm would come up and rain caused damage before I could get the tarps on the roof and get it dried in. My insurance company would pay the claim, declaring the storm an act of God. We have many examples in Scripture of God controlling and using nature for his purpose. We have the case of course, the rain that caused the flood. The Lord rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from out of heaven. God stopped the rain for Elijah. The Lord sent a great wind into the sea, causing a mighty tempest in order to get Jonah's attention. Jesus rebuked the wind and said unto the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. So we know that nature is in God's control. So did God cause this pandemic? I suppose in light of what we have just taken from the Scriptures, it is at least a possibility. Isaiah 55, 8 and 9 tells us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways your ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." But just because God allows it doesn't necessarily mean he is the author of it. Perhaps it is of Satan. Perhaps it is pure evil unleashed. God is always in control and able to turn all of the evil of Satan and fallen man into good. Isn't that what Romans 8:28 tells us? Isn't that what God did at Calvary? Has there ever been a greater evil done by Satan or falling man than that which was done at Calvary's cross, when the innocent Son of God was put to death? And has there ever been a greater good done by God than the resurrection of Jesus the Christ? So again, we know that these things are in God's control. God can take them, he can use them, whether he caused them or not. But why would God cause it? If he indeed did, how could he use it? Perhaps as a warning to unbelievers to repent, perhaps as a reminder to Christians to be busy in these last days, perhaps as judgment against sin in this world, and perhaps in our country particularly, since we seem to be harder hit by this than some countries have been. We cannot know at this time all that God can or will do with this epidemic. We do know that God is in control. The great Bible teacher, Dr. Hanley Mule, was called to the scene of a terrible accident at a British coal mine. Many friends and relatives of the victims of the cave-in gathered, and it was Dr. Mule's responsibility to address them. It is very difficult, he said, for us to understand why God should let an awful disaster happen, but we know him and trust him, and all will be right. I have at home an old bookmarker given me by my mother. It is worked in silk, and when I examine the wrong side of it, I see nothing but a tangle of threads. It looks like a big mistake. One would think that someone had done it who did not know what she was doing. But when I turn it over and look at the right side, I see there, beautifully embroidered, the letters, God is love. We are looking at all this today from the wrong side. Someday we shall see it from another standpoint, and we shall understand. End of quote. After tomorrow, I will be teaching the next 2 Sunday school Zoom meetings and the Wednesday night in between, I believe. The topic will be Bible prophecy concerning the last days and how this pandemic may fit in. I hope you will bring your thoughts and questions for discussion. Until then, God keep you and bless you.